Is Trump's trade war victory under siege? Has Trump's trade victory already started to crumble? Despite dire predictions of economic collapse, market crashes, and an uncontrollable trade war, President Trump has achieved what many thought impossible. But this success may be more fragile than it appears. In a stunning turn of events, Trump has managed to establish trade arrangements that push America's import tariffs beyond even the notorious Smoot-Hawley levels. While avoiding the catastrophic consequences many economists feared, the Treasury is collecting substantially more customs revenue. Inflation has remained relatively stable, and remarkably, most trading partners have accepted these higher tariffs without launching major retaliatory measures. But here's where things get interesting. This apparent triumph is already showing serious cracks. Through a series of framework agreements, the U.S. has successfully imposed elevated tariffs on incoming foreign goods while securing near-zero levies on American exports. Trading partners have made significant concessions, including opening previously restricted markets to U.S. products, promising increased U.S.-based investments, and eliminating various non-tariff barriers like digital service taxes. However, the European Union's response reveals the fragility of these arrangements. Following a last-minute trade deal before Trump's August 1st deadline, European leaders are openly rebelling. The French Prime Minister called it a dark day. While Hungary's leader accused Trump of steamrolling the EU, even Trump ally Viktor Orban expressed concerns. And Belgium's leader harshly criticized what he called America's delusion of protectionism. Meanwhile, relations with Canada have deteriorated despite their concession on digital services taxes. Trump continues threatening increased tariffs on Canadian goods, including lumber. While the USMCA protects about half of Canadian imports from tariffs, the remaining goods could face higher costs, potentially impacting American consumers. Perhaps most concerning is the situation with China. Despite ongoing negotiations and a temporary pause in escalating tariffs, progress remains slow. The U.S. wants increased access to rare earth magnets and greater market access, while China seeks critical semiconductor access. But Beijing's apparent foot-dragging on previous commitments has frustrated U.S. negotiators. And here's the bombshell that could unravel everything. A crucial court decision could potentially declare most of Trump's tariffs illegal. While the administration has alternative methods to impose tariffs, legal experts suggest these options might require congressional approval and could limit both the duration and scale of tariff implementation. The economic impact is beginning to surface in subtle but concerning ways. While the overall economy remains robust, inflation is creeping up in tariff-affected sectors. Consumer goods like clothing, appliances, and electronics are showing consistent price increases. Major retailers, including Walmart, are announcing price hikes, and automotive giants report billion-dollar tariff charges. What do you think? Has Trump's aggressive trade strategy truly succeeded, or are we seeing the beginning of its unraveling? Share your thoughts on whether these trade policies will ultimately benefit or harm the American economy. Trump's tariff deals with EU, global trade implications, and economic impact. The recent tariff agreements orchestrated by Donald Trump have the potential to reshape global trade dynamics in significant ways. Welcome back to the White House Watch newsletter, where we delve into the latest political developments. If you haven't already, feel free to check out our previous edition here, www.ft.com/election, and you can sign up for free to receive future updates. /TSES/www.ft.com newsletter sign up /landing every Tuesday and Thursday. We're eager to hear from you. Reach us at whitehousewatch@ft.com. In today's discussion, we'll explore Trump's latest tariff agreement with the European Union, the Taiwanese president's canceled visit to New York City, the intriguing question, how long can the U.S. economy continue to defy expectations? The United States and the European Union finally reached a long-anticipated tariff agreement this past Sunday, which prevents the onset of a transatlantic trade war. However, this deal still involves a continued imposition of a 15% tariff on various products imported from the EU. The reaction from key European leaders, particularly from Germany and France, has been quick and critical. French Prime Minister François Bayrou characterized this moment as a dark day, suggesting that the EU has effectively succumbed to U.S. pressure. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz warned that this agreement could inflict significant damage on the European economy. As part of the arrangement, the EU has committed to investing hundreds of billions of dollars into American energy initiatives and defense contracts. This financial commitment comes alongside the acceptance of a Trump proclaimed this agreement as possibly the biggest deal ever reached in any capacity, while European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen referred to it as a breakthrough, offering certainty in uncertain times. Yet for many within Europe, the sense of relief is paired with a palpable regret over the EU's failure to adopt a more assertive stance from the outset. One diplomat candidly noted, "He's the bully in the schoolyard, and we didn't join others in standing up to him. Those who don't hang together get hanged separately." This agreement adds to a series of rapid trade arrangements struck by Trump, including partnerships with the United Kingdom, Indonesia, the Philippines, Japan, and Vietnam. Trump's approach to trade is characterized by a mixture of strategic retreats and strong commitments. With these new tariffs, he has effectively locked in high levies on nearly 45% of all U.S. imports, which could significantly alter the landscape of global commerce. Despite this latest deal with the EU, which settled for a lower tariff than the previously threatened 30%, Trump has raised the overall effective tariff rate to approximately 17.3%, according to Yale University's Budget Lab. This is alarmingly close to the peak levels not seen since the 1930s. In related news, Trump's administration denied Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te the opportunity for a brief stopover in New York, following objections from China. The White House has called for the Federal Reserve to implement dramatically lower interest rates ahead of their upcoming monetary policy meeting. Trump granted Russia a limited time frame to agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine, warning of potential sanctions while expressing disappointment with Vladimir Putin. He also noted that real starvation is affecting people in Gaza. Tragically, a gunman killed 4 individuals before taking his own life at a New York office building that houses the headquarters for Blackstone and the NFL. What are we hearing from the economic front? Economists expressed apprehension about Trump's promises to expel thousands of migrants, terminate federal contracts, and enforce hefty tariffs on international trading partners. Many analysts predicted these policies would hinder U.S. growth and lead to a spike in inflation rates. However, the administration has largely followed through with these initiatives. Yet economic indicators so far suggest limited adverse effects. Inflation has remained fairly stable, with the consumer price index below 3% since January, albeit still surpassing the Federal Reserve's target of 2%. Meanwhile, the labor market continues to flourish, adding nearly 800,000 jobs during the first half of 2025. This unexpectedly positive economic trend has prompted some experts to argue for a reevaluation of existing economic models. Oren Cass, head of the American Compass think tank, observed that the key lesson of recent months is that economists should exhibit greater humility regarding their understanding of how various policy shifts impact the economy. Trump and his team have been unyielding in their stance, labeling the critiques of mainstream media and experts as fake news. Earlier this month, Trump proudly declared on his Truth Social platform, "Tariffs are making our country boom." However, dissenting voices caution that the full effects of some of these policies have yet to resonate within the economy. "It's still early to assess," remarked Maurice Obstfeld from the Peterson Institute for International Economics in Washington. Additionally, some recent reports have surfaced concerning economic vulnerabilities. A substantial portion of June's job growth stemmed from a surge in state government employment, whereas private sector hiring has begun to decelerate. There are indications that inflationary pressures linked to tariffs may finally be emerging. Obsfeld commented, "While the economy appears to be holding steady on the surface, it encompasses underlying vulnerabilities and tensions that may intensify in the coming quarters." Let's look at some viewpoints. Opinions are divided on whether Trump has unwittingly laid the groundwork for a future financial crisis by embracing cryptocurrencies, with some influential Democrats seemingly complicit, as noted by Rana Tharuhar. Julian Gewurtz previously served as a senior director for China and Taiwan affairs on the National Security Council, warned that intensified competition in AI between the U.S. and China could heighten the risk of conflict. Ruchir Sharma argues that the world may have somewhat exaggerated the disruptive implications of Trump's tariffs. Minna Allender, a fellow at SIPA, emphasizes that NATO needs innovative solutions beyond arbitrary spending benchmarks to enhance European defense capabilities. Are you as intrigued as we are by the complex nature of these trade agreements and their long-term implications? Feel free to share your thoughts and engage with us in the comments. Do you think Trump's approach will ultimately benefit or harm the economy? Let's continue the conversation. How Trump's trade wins can boost the U.S. economy. Ripping up the rulebook and rewriting global trade dynamics, Donald Trump's recent victory in U.S. trade negotiations may just unlock unprecedented economic growth for America. While critics dismiss his tactics as protectionist, this bold strategy could become the catalyst for a national economic renaissance. But here's the real controversy. Does risking global trade wars truly benefit everyday Americans? The numbers are jaw-dropping. America's $29 trillion economy towers over rivals China, $19 trillion, and the EU, $19 trillion. But it's our consumer power that gives Trump his leverage. While the average European country derives 52% of its economy from consumer activity, ours accounts for 70%. That's $20 trillion of spending that foreign nations can't ignore. They want a piece of this pie, and Trump is using this clout to dismantle unfair trade barriers. What's often overlooked is just how systemic these trade distortions have become. Europe currently slaps a 10% import duty on American cars, while we charge just 2.5% on European vehicles. EU agricultural barriers and Japan's regulatory hurdles have long excluded our top-quality farming exports. But Trump's strategy shows why this imbalance can't continue. When America withdraws access to our markets, even normally obstinate partners negotiate. The EU's recent plea deal with Trump reveals deep tensions. While the deal imposes 15% tariffs on their imports and guarantees energy purchases, European elites seethed. French Prime Minister François Bayrou called it submission, and their trade minister publicly fantasized about resisting, the sturt of yesterday. But the numbers tell a different story. Since 2008, EU GDP grew 13.5%, compared to America's stunning 87% explosion. Per capita, our economic output was already 32% higher in 2008. Now it's double theirs. This isn't just about numbers. It's about competing philosophies. The EU's three structural weaknesses make their tantrums particularly rich. 1. Suffocating bureaucracy. Micromanaging labor laws and corporate overregulation stifle innovation. Even the IMF calls France's rigid work rules destructive. 2. Climate cost conundrum. Renewable energy mandates have spiked industrial power costs. German factories pay triple U.S. rates for electricity, making modern tech manufacturing unfeasible. 3. Gridlocked policymaking. Reaching consensus across 27 nations slows progress to a crawl, leaving them behind in AI and energy innovation. While traditional economic orthodoxy warns that tariffs trigger consumer price hikes, Trump's team counters with a different narrative. Companies relocating production to the U.S. to avoid tariffs, recouping billions in treasury income, and leveraging reduced corporate taxes. Whether this ends as legendary success or costly miscalculation remains to be seen. But Trump's track record suggests dismissing him at your peril. Here's the elephant in the room. Could the EU's anti-Trump posturing be a desperate attempt to mask their own failures? Their punitive energy policies, bureaucratic paralysis, and entrenched socialism suggest an estate struggling to compete against America's deregulated dynamism. Meanwhile, domestic critics worry that today's tariffs could become tomorrow's consumer cost explosion. So we ask you, is Trump's trade strategy a visionary reboot of global commerce or a reckless invitation to economic chaos? Share your thoughts in the comments.